Whoa, what was that?
What?
Drew's back. He's bumping around there in the newsroom. All I hear him is like opening seltzer cans.
Here, I can knock on the screen. Ready? Watch this.
Hello, come in. This is the show, guys. It's a show about nothing, apparently.
We got something for you
No,
today.
we do have a topic. Bryant Clerkley, our Sunrise reporter, joining us this morning because we were talking about, you know, lots of kids getting ready to back to school now, whether that's virtually, some districts doing a hybrid model, some kids, you know, going back in person. So we're talking about all this summer and really leading up to class of kids feeling really kind of alone and not being able to play with their friends. Playgrounds are supposed to be closed, you know, the public pools haven't been open, like OMSI, where we take my daughter, and I know a lot of kids love to go and touch and run around. That's been closed. Lots of stuff that is not available right now. And Bryant, you talked with a therapist and a mom about kind of ways that they're creatively getting around this and just kind of the problem. So I want to kind of set you up. So kind of explain your story, and then we'd like to play the video and kind of talk about this social isolation and maybe ask people, you know, what their friends or what they've been doing to help their kids. So Bryant, take it away.
All right, so Tanya Alexander is a mother of 3. She has 2 kids, one going into the 4th grade, one going into the 7th grade. So one of her main concerns about this upcoming school year is her kids not getting enough social interaction. She said that she's noticed some changes. They were depressed, a little bit withdrawn. So she's decided to send one of her kids to an outdoor private school this fall. I'm not sure if that kid is going to be in there for the entire year, but I do know, at least for the first semester, one of her kids is going to be in an outdoor private school, and she's still trying to figure out what else she can do for her 7th grader to get him some more social time. So basically, she's allowing them to have 1 or 2 friends over every now and then, the same 1 or 2 friends, so they can, you know, interact with other kids. And she says that it's good for their mental health. And then the therapist says that parents just have to get creative in these times, maybe some Zoom play dates or whatever they can do to keep it socially distant. But the therapist says that she's heard from a lot of parents with these same concerns.
Let's watch your story real quick.
Tanya Alexander is a single mother of 3 from the Bethany neighborhood. Her older kids are part of the Beaverton School District. They'll be in 4th and 7th grades. She's worried about this upcoming school year because over the past few months, her kids have not had much of a social life.
I've definitely seen signs of depression, much more emotional, tears, a lot of tears, a lot of being withdrawn.
She says she's so concerned about distance learning and social isolation, she found another alternative for her 4th grader.
We switched out of public school, and he'll be attending an outdoor-based small private school where they actually will be able to meet in person in small groups, safely distanced, with masks, of course, and you know, all of the protocols, but he'll be able to interact with other kids.
Tanya says she's now focusing on her 7th grader and finding good solutions to the isolation. Amy Baker is a social worker on special assignment for the Beaverton School District. She says they're working with teachers on how to help students during this time of isolation and distance learning.
Some specific lessons and strategies on being very intentional about relationship, right? So spending even more time than you might normally on doing a morning meeting or a check-in with your students, making sure that you do that perhaps more frequently during the day.
Chelsea Meir is a child and family therapist.
I've definitely heard from families concerns about the loneliness, the isolation that kids might be feeling, and especially for younger kids who might not understand that what is happening right now is a unique circumstance and that life will go back to normal at some point.
Meir says parents just have to get a little creative.
Whether it's in person, socially distanced safely, or via those like Skype and Zoom and FaceTime platforms that allow kids to interact kind of like we are now.
Okay, so if you can't send your kids to a outdoor private school, you certainly can, maybe kind of start a little bubble with maybe one or two of their friends if you haven't done that already. Bryant, I know you're not a parent yet, but what else did you learn from this story?
That it's actually really expensive to send your kid to an outdoor school, because Tanya told me that she had to take out of her retirement to do so.
Oh, wow.
So that was one of the things that I found kind of jarring, because I mean, she was just talking about the expense of it. You almost have to sort of kind of create your own situation here, and I had never heard of an outdoor private school before, so that was one of the interesting little nuggets that I took away from the story, is how expensive it is to get your kids the social interaction during the time of distance learning.
But
if you want to do something different, generally you have to pay.
Yeah, sorry, Bryant, didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
No, I was just going to say, it is expensive, but she was talking about, being concerned about her kids' mental health and seeing some early signs of depression. So, the trade-off to that, as a mama bear myself, I think I'd pretty much do anything that I possibly could for my kids if I saw some of those things. There's so much to think about. Drew, what are you doing?
Well, I was just going to say, observation-wise. My observation is that I see a lot of young people out and about that seem to be acting normally, like I saw them acting before COVID hit. Honestly, when I'm at the grocery store shopping, for instance, I see, groups of kids, not huge groups in a grocery store, but I'll see groups of kids in there all the time, 3, 4, 5, doing their thing, not wearing masks necessarily. Sometimes they are, but they're together, they're in their pack. Drove by a ball field last night. We were on the way to get some family pictures done.
Oh,
not my favorite activity. I told our boys last night, I said, hey, if you enjoy seeing yourselves at a younger age, go thank your mother, because if it was up to me, there would be no pictures. Right?
Oh,
that is something that the wife in our house definitely organizes. So anyway, I went along for the ride and never complained, of course. Passing by a school, I saw this group. I was surprised. There was a group of what looked to be young people, and I mean, I'm just catching this as I'm driving by in the car. I was the passenger, by the way. I look out the window and see a group of what looked to be about 20 younger-ish, teenage-type people sitting around in a circle, and it looked like they had maybe 2 adults in the center of that circle. I don't know what the event was. I don't know what this organization was, but at first it dawned on me like, hey, they're very close together. They're not wearing masks. So I feel like we are running these stories about how kids cannot have any sort of contact. Maybe it should be that they shouldn't have, or it should be limited.
I think it depends on
but I'm seeing a lot of it anyways.
Yeah,
Drew, I'm going to go jump on what you're saying, because I call it the COVID convention. And there are probably about 10 kids in the neighborhood that gather by this little store that I run into occasionally. And I'm like, none of y'all are wearing a mask. I know you're outside. If they go into the store, they have to have one. But then they take their treats and their sodas and they all just hang out there. And I'm like, oh boy. There we go.
Maybe that's something we can ask our viewers if you want to chime in, because obviously there are many watching right now. Are you seeing this like Brenda's seeing it, like I'm seeing it? Another example would be about 3 weeks ago we got a call from a neighbor. Hey, the Baskin Robbins down here is closing. The one in our neighborhood is closing tonight. Last night they're giving away free cones for the next hour. I'm like, I don't want to go to Baskin Robbins and get a free ice cream cone. I got ice cream in the freezer. But anyway, I'm going. I take the boys down there, and when we arrive, there's a pack of, like, again, I'm going to say 20. I mean, it could have been more, but I'll say 20 youngerish types, anywhere from 14 to 17 years old, hanging outside in front of the Baskin Robbins, eating their ice cream cone, shoulder to shoulder, face to face, having what it looks to be like a normal pre-pandemic time. And again, I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
Just a little bit.
No, my point is, there are people out there right now socializing just as they always did.
Yep.
I think
so it's
it
not
just
a problem
on,
that's widespread.
How strict your family is. And, obviously the woman that Bryant interviewed, she's got 2 kids that she's really keeping them, quarantined and in the house. And, there's not a lot of outings. Thank goodness, I keep saying, for the weather. That has just been our saving grace. You can ride your bike, you can run around. You can, get the kiddie pool out if you're, blessed enough to have space in your yard to kind of get out of this hot weather and play outside. We do a lot of chalk drawings outside, but And my little daughter, I mean, she's not in school yet. She's just in kind of preschool, and she's been going. And they have a little cohort of like 8 or 9 kids that they're only in the same room with, and they're never exposed to the other kids in the other little cohorts in the room. But thank goodness for that little social interaction. And that actually was brand new this summer. So she was always supposed to start June 1st, and she did. And, we've just really seen her kind of, not to be cheesy, blossom in that setting. But other moms on the feed, Katie Heisman says she has 2 daughters. Jasmine misses her first year of high school,
that's a bummer.
And Olivia misses her second year of grade school. So it's going to be weird. I mean, just to even be not in a classroom setting, sitting at a little desk, whispering to your friend across the way, and having to stare at a screen with everyone else's faces looking at you, it's weird.
Let's see. Michelle says, favorite thing I've seen so far, a group of about 6 teens in the parking lot of Washington Square Mall with cars backed into a circle, all sitting in chairs totally distanced with masks and just
cool.
hanging out.
Yeah.
It was so nice to see the responsibility and the creativity.
Yeah.
Love that, Michelle.
Justin chimes in saying, I'm not locking my kids up. We just do it as safe as we possibly can right now. And I will tell you that at the Carney House, we're doing it about that same way. Our kids are not completely isolated from the rest of the neighborhood. They've had somewhat of a normal summer. I mean, heck, we've been playing baseball for the last 2 months. Now they play on a field wearing masks, which is obviously not something we ever did before until this year. They're hanging out in the dugout, playing on the field, even running the bases and all that business with masks on, but they still have had the opportunity to play baseball and have that social interaction, which has been great. They've had a couple of backyard campouts in our neighborhood with a few kids that we know pretty well. Again, we're not having sleepovers in the house, but they're still having that sort of social interaction experience in the backyard with the tents and all of that. So I would say that we're probably, like many people, you don't want to just completely cut off the kids from this social interaction. You're trying to do things a little bit safely, a little differently than you used to, but they are still having some sort of interaction, some sort of
I know
group
it's kind
gatherings.
of hard to ride herd over. I think what you're doing is great. I think that you should, figure out what the parameters are for your children, and they are, they can have a mind of their own,
Yes.
regardless of what you tell them. But hanging out in front of public places, unmasked, like right at the entrance where you can't really get away from that. And I think of, a lot of the older people who go in and out, that I wish that they would kind of take it somewhere else, a little farther away, because why do we wear a mask? It's to protect other people. So it's great that they do it, and they have to do it by law in the stores, but you can't just congregate, because then that a little bit defeats the purpose.
And, we did those stories last week on those tutoring pods that parents are kind of trying to get involved with, and it's like kids between 3 and 5 kids in a group, kind of in the same grades, learning the same subjects, little ones all the way up, through high school. And the parents are splitting the cost of a tutor, either who sits there literally during the virtual school day or who comes after the fact for a couple hours, maybe once a week, or some parents are doing it, 3-4 days a week. That really is the in-person aspect, and whether it's outside on a porch, under a little pop-up tent or something. A lot of parents are kind of getting it that way and really demanding in-person learning, Bryant, like you were talking about. Parents, really want just some kind of social interaction. Are you working on other stories? I know we're doing a whole series of things, and maybe it's Drew's next that airs on like homeschooling. I can't remember.
Well, we may not make that due date now, will we? No, I'm kidding. That is airing Thursday. We are talking about
Thursday, okay.
We talked to 3 local parents who have spent years homeschooling, and they said they've always been approached by people asking about homeschooling, some weighing the options, but they said never like this summer.
Yeah.
They've had so many people coming up to them asking about homeschooling, how it works, how to execute it themselves, because that is becoming an option for a lot of people this year, an alternative to what's really, for most people, distance learning in your public neighborhood schools.
We have Charlene Miller Simmons weighing in. She says, I'm the mom of an incoming senior, and we have let him hang out with 2 friends at our house or theirs. They did need some friend time after months of none. Yeah, no doubt.
Susan Decker, who I know chimes in quite often on the Facebook live stream. Good morning, Susan. I liked her spelling, first of all, S-O-O-S-A-N, Susan. She says, my neighbors across the street keep having larger than 10 people parties. At the beginning of all this, they actually had a Corona party. She says she knows this because she saw tons of Corona beer boxes spilling out of the recycling bins the next morning.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susan, for weighing in again on Sunrise Extra.
Corona parties. Oh, man.
Here's Heidi says that they're at the river daily. That's a nice,
That's a
with
good
the
spot,
hot
yeah.
weather. Isn't that a great spot?
Yeah.
We were over on Savi Island. We were doing, some berry picking, and we took a drive down just to where you couldn't go any further, down by the beaches. And there were a lot of people, and we kind of looked over as we were driving by, and they were socially distanced. The parking lot was packed, but they seemed to be having a great time.
Bryant, I know before we started this, you were saying, this would have been really hard for you. You're a social guy. Like, just thinking back to all of our times in high school, how would you have treated this COVID quarantine time?
It would have been rough. I mean, it's rough for me now, but it would have definitely been rough when I was a teenager, because just the motion of going through the halls and saying hi to all your friends and just talking to people and seeing all the different people every day. And I mean, it just, because I would just go from class to class and just talk to people and, I don't know, shake hands, give them a bump. It would have just been rough to have to be at home. Plus, I'm an only child too.
Me too.
Just to have to be
And Brenda.
homeschooled. Yeah. I mean,
Wait a minute.
I would not
Nina, only
have
child. Brenda,
had an
only
easy
child.
time with that.
And Brian, only child.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
you're
me.
the only one.
I will leave, and you guys can have your only child
Well, you
party.
know what? I mean, it's like, let's use, Bryant, as an example, like, you started this job. I met you actually when you were here on your job interview like months ago. And then COVID happened, and that kind of
February.
got all slowed down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just can't imagine.
Yeah.
It's exactly kind of like your experience. I mean, how many times have you been in this building, like, since you've started here? Like, twice?
Yeah, like 3 times maybe. And just, moving to a new city, trying to make friends during all this and just meet people and stuff like that. So I'm feeling it. Like, I definitely understand the social burn of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, he moves to a new city from Florida across the country, and Bryant, I love it. You're a fellow foodie with me, and I mean, a lot of restaurants are open, but many of the really awesome ones that I'm sure you've heard about aren't open. And so he can't, come meet all his coworkers and hang out and see what this crazy bunch is like. And you can't, go hang out at restaurants that you may want to try. It sucks. It sucks.
I'm telling you, I'm a bit of a homebody. And it's just now starting to wear on me. For the longest time, I was happy as a clam, doing my little thing. But now I'm like, okay, I'm kind of feeling a little antsy.
Yeah.
Not doing anything about it, but kind of feeling it.
Yeah.
It will be interesting when the weather turns, right? In fact, Willie Huey, who often chimes in on the Sunrise Extra stream, what's up, Willie? Kind of speaks to this, says, I share a back fence with 3 families of same-aged kids. We all have the same mentality. So our kids get to play together often, but only outside. He says, not sure what to do when the rain returns.
Yeah, no, I have seriously fall scaries. You could kind of the other day when it was raining, and it super rained hard the other night, I was just like, I was getting a stomach ache just thinking of oh my God, fall is coming and we're not going to be able to hang out outside. What are we going to do?
Jennifer Taft says Zoom party for Bryant.
We're having a Zoom party for Bryant.
This is it right here. This is a Zoom party, is it not?
It is.
Sunrise Extra Zoom party.
Got to be creative.
By the way, if you ever read a comment from Soosan, who I say Susan Decker, she says her name is actually pronounced like Dr. Seuss.
I love that.
So Susan Decker.
Susan.
Susan Decker.
All right.
That's why it's spelled differently, because it's pronounced differently.
Is there a backstory to that name? I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Susan.
Susan.
What's up, Susan? Hey, remember in the early days of Sunrise Extra, we had our friend Stanford Walker, who would always speak so highly of me that it used to disgust Nina. There was so much love for Stanford Walker. Remember, you see, like, oh, Stanford's chirping about Drew again. Well, this morning he says, "Good morning, Nina Melhoff. Good morning, Miss Braxton. Where's Galen Etland?
Oh!
He was a breath of fresh air on KGW Sunrise Extra."
No.
Oh, Stanford, what happened to the love we once had?
Oh my goodness.
Stanford.
See, this is the party. This is the party atmosphere, Bryant. This is the party you're yearning for, and we do it here on the Zoom.
Poor substitute, Bryant.
Katie likes fall, by the way. It is a beautiful time.
I love fall.
We still have lots of nice weather coming. We do. Oh. It'll be all right, people. It'll be all right.
Susan says it's a nickname.
Oh, interesting. What's your real name?
Yeah.
I bet it's Susan.
You better hurry up. You got to chime in. We have about a minute left on Sunrise Extra.
Go.
Susan, get to typing. What is your real name? And then we will say your real name, your nickname, and your last name every time we shout out a comment from you on Sunrise Extra.
Here's a 180 from you, Miss Nina. Katie says, "I'm only happy when it rains. Fall's coming."
I'm only happy when it rains.
And we're just waiting for Susan, and then we're gonna sign off.
Susan.
What's up, Nicole? She says, "I love the Mix It Up version." This is the show. I told you.
Oh, who's that?
It's about something, but then it's really about nothing.
Foreign body behind me. Rob Sutton, one of our Sunrise producers, mask on and passing through. Thanks for joining us, Rob.
Yes,
today on Sunrise Extra.
Jennifer,
All
they
right.
put the fun in dysfunction. Isn't that the truth?
All right, you guys, we gotta go.
No.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Don't bail on Susan. She's
We'll
so
see it
close to I can
afterwards.
hear her typing, Nina.
Susan has things to do. Susan.
Bye.